the Hindu goddess Kali, the goddess of death, who stands upon the soul with the feet of her souls. And did you notice that she was sticking her tongue out, which is a provocative, disgusting gesture, exactly like Miley Cyrus? Notice how Miley draws the tic-tac-toe, which is the symbol of Saturn, Saturnine. And aside from the number 23, you'll notice another Illuminati symbol, which is the double C's, the 2 3s. The 2 3s of 33. Again, the symbol of the woman, the Vesica Piscis. And so now you understand that Chanel is just the vagina canal of the female goddess of El. And the Chanel logo, once again, displays the Illuminati's sacred owl. The wise old owl that represents the creature of the night, the hidden one of silent death. Which, of course, is why our state capital is in the belly of the beast of the owl. And that's why you'll find the elite Illuminati worshiping the owl in their ritual at Bohemian Grove. The wise old owl who sits in the sacred tree of knowledge. The Chanel owl, goddess of wisdom, like that at the state capitol. We also have the pentagram, like the Pentagon owl. Thus, of course, Chanel has Chanel number 5. And when we have the 5 or the pentagram, we have the pentalpha, which of course are the 5 alphas that make the pentagram or the star. The pentalpha is a triangle or a pyramid shape, which represents the number 3. So the Aleph, which represents the bull god with horns, is the triangle symbol that represents fire, like the red-hot fire of the angry bull. In fact, in Hebrew, the word for fire is the Aleph and the Shin, or the Sin, which clearly shows you the 3 flames, exactly like the devil's red fire trident. Which brings us to the libel. The Bible, where of course we find the sacred Trinity that we have found throughout religions of the world for thousands of years. And we find it in secret societies like the Freemasons, and especially the Trinity of witchcraft, the sacred sex magic trinity of the church. And of course, we find the same sex magic trinity in the September 11th attacks of the World Trade Center. And why 3 of the Trinity? It's because 2 will not have everlasting life. There must be 3. And that's why it takes at least 3, or the Trinity, to produce and create a form. And that's exactly why the number 3, or the Trinity, is surrounded by the story of Jesus. So the Trinity, or the pyramid of the Illuminati, brings me to the logo of Jordan, Air Jordan, which is exactly like the same symbolism of the Mercedes-Benz logo. And of course, this symbol dates back thousands of years to the ancient Celtic Druidic order. And of course, the bull is sacred to the ancient Druids. The old Druid, the wise one, the word that gives us true or drew. And of course, it gives us our word wise, as in the wise one or the wizard. And by the way, Michael Jordan did play on the Wizards. And that reminds me of Michael Jordan's Illuminati illuminated pose pointing to the mind. The pose of the marked master mason. a famous pose of the Illuminati's very own Aleister Crowley. And Jordan is the lord of the golden rings, the 6 rings that represent Saturn. So look around and keep your eye peeled for the symbolism and the pose of the Illuminati's marked Master Mason. Nikola Tesla often posed showing you this symbolism. And here we see Nikola Tesla with the Illuminati's number of 23. Nikola Tesla was famous when he illuminated the Chicago World's Fair on May 1st, the day the Illuminati was formed. By the way, the Illuminati triangle is not made of 3 sides. It is not a tetrahedron, which is made of 4 sides. It is a pyramid that is known as a square pyramid that consists of 5 sides. So now I want to show a little more of the relationship between the 23, or the 2 and the 3, and the 5. Like the 5-sided pyramid along with the number 23. And the pentagon of 5 along with the number 23. Earlier, I explained how the number 5 is related to death and destruction, like the spiral destruction of the tornado, which is measured in the destruction of the number 5. Exactly like a hurricane, where the catastrophic category is measured by the number 5. And now you know why the Pentagon's catastrophic level is DEFCON 5. And by the way, did you know that the Declaration of Independence was presented by the Committee of 5? And the number 5 that we find upon the world's richest family, the Rothschilds, with their 5 arrows that represent the 5 brothers. In the Jewish mystical Kabbalah, the Zohar states that evilness is rooted in the Sephiro number 5. Now earlier I told you about the Death Star in Star Wars and the Red Leader number 5, which is Luke Skywalker, and how he has to stay on 23 degrees. But I forgot to tell you about Princess Leia's holding cell on the Death Star, which is in detention block 23 on level 5. And in the movie 23, where Jim Carrey is the dog catcher, or the Dog Star Sirius, and that's why he is unit number 5. So we're all aware that September 11th is crammed full of esoteric symbology and numerology, which includes the number 23 as well as 5. And TWA Flight 800 is also linked to the number 23. And take a look at this. The US Pentagon lays out its military invasion and destruction of Syria on July 23rd. So July 23rd is obviously a very important date to the Illuminati and the secret elite that rule this world for thousands of years. When we take a look at the chemical element of vanadium, it has an atomic number of 23, and the symbol is the Roman numeral 5. Now, I want to show you another example of the connection between Isis and the Dog Star Sirius. Isis was a goddess of childbirth, a mother goddess. She was also a goddess of sexuality, of lust and love. When you think about it, today, how do we refer to our women? We refer to them as our bitches. Now, keep in mind that a bitch is a female dog. And now you know why it's called doggy style. Remember earlier when I told you about the dog days of summer that begin on July 23rd, which is known for the flooding of the Nile, which is why I showed you the drowning scene in the film The Dog Days of Summer. Then, on the Dog Days of Summer, July 23rd, they find that James Jordan had been killed, and thus they found him in the watery abyss of the river. When Michael Jordan was just 11 years old, he witnessed a good friend drowned in his presence, and then Michael Jordan became fearful of waters, and thus ironic that his father James Jordan was found that way. I'm sure he has nothing to do with his father's death, but on the other hand, he has been known to be a shady character, where in 1992, Jordan was called to testify in a criminal trial of James Bowler to explain why Bowler, a convicted drug dealer, was in possession of a Jordan-signed personal check for $57,000. Think about it, a convicted drug dealer in the possession of a check from Michael Jordan, signed by him, and for the amount of $57,000. What do you think a drug dealer is doing with Michael Jordan's money for $57,000? And Michael Jordan's excuse was that he had gambling debts? Now, aside from the Bulls and the Sirius song, as well as Sirius the Dog Star on July 23rd, and the coincidence of Michael Jordan's father being killed on the day of Sirius, July 23rd. Aside from that esoteric aspect, I mean, take a look at the crime scene. He was in a red Lexus, and they say that they mugged him and killed him and shot him. But the official investigation shows that there was no blood to be found, not even a drop, within inside of the car. And the two they convicted for it are just patsies.
Because Sirius is said to arise in the east, it also became known as the Eastern Star. To the Egyptians, Sirius was identified with the dog god Anubis, which is where the name Dog Star comes from. Anubis was said to have guarded the gates of death and was the protector of mysteries. Meanwhile, the Romans recognized Sirius as Janitor Letheus, or the Keeper of Hell. These dark associations may be the reason for the sometimes grim view of Sirius and the five-pointed star that represents it. But Sirius was also associated with the Egyptian goddess Isis, and here, as we connect the dots, a more complete picture begins to emerge. For the Egyptians, the rising of Sirius in the east preceded the annual flooding of the Nile River, which for them was a magical event. It was also the time that the goddess Isis would appear and give birth to Horus, the divine child of the Egyptian Trinity. The all-seeing eye is also called the Eye of Horus, and in Freemasonry,
to the ancient Egyptians, the priest would tell the serfs, the guys that tilled the land, they would say, the sun is God. That's not what the priest believed. What the priest believed, there was a second level. However, there was another level, and the priests didn't even know it. It's those that were involved and elevated to if I would have told you this 15 years ago, I might have gotten shot. But this is now, I'm so glad now that this is easy to talk about. The third level, which is a higher level of understanding, said, nope, it's not, that's not the sun. The sun is not the supreme deity. Nope, yes, spiritual energies come through the sun. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the star Sirius.
The dog star.
The dog star, because the dog star was everything to the ancient Egyptians.
Sirius is said to have been the most important star in the ancient world. It was considered the brightest star in the heavens many times brighter than the sun. The Great Pyramid was built to synchronize with Sirius, so that the light of this star would shine into the Queen's chamber, supposedly to cast a beam upon an initiate during a ritual.